Welcome to A Piece of the Action. I'm Micah.
I'm Eric.
And I'm Greg.
For the first time ever, we get to be together in person. We've finally defeated COVID, and
It's done with. It's over. You're welcome.
Being with these people in person is a sacrifice I make for you all.
And we finally reached, as we mentioned before, the absolute tiniest YouTube milestone that we could, 100 subscribers, which is, we know nothing, but it gives us an opportunity to get together and do something a little bit different. So that's what we're doing today. We're going to get to hear Eric and Greg's top 10 games each. So we're going to go ahead and get into it. We want to thank everybody who has subscribed and stuck with us for the last, God, what's it been, 2 years?
We had our 2-year anniversary like 5 days ago.
So, wow. So I personally did not think that we would last 2 years or ever have any subscribers, really. So
at this rate, we'll get that YouTube plaque in about the year 3000.
right. So let's hang in there. Exactly. Okay, cool. So Eric and Greg's top 10 games is what we're going to be looking at today. We'll go ahead and get right into it with Eric. What is your game number 10 on your list?
So, big caveat here. Like, we are not... Well, he's probably more well-versed with a large variety of games than I am. I have a focus. I'm a kind of a focused guy, so like this is my personal top 10. So you know.
I'm using Jill's top 10.
He actually he guessed what my.
I'm guessing just because we're cribbing from the dice chart anyways. I'm going to do their thing where I'm trying to guess your top 10, and I'm predicting 3 crossovers.
Yes, I also said that we would have 3 crossovers. But do you want to guess my number 10?
No, I don't know what number 10 is. I don't have that filtered down.
Okay.
I know what number 1 is, but the rest are just 10, I think, are on your list.
Okay. Well,
so we'll do the reveal afterwards and see where you're at.
Sure,
okay.
That's a good idea.
All right, number 10.
Number 10 is a war game. It's an older war game from 1999. It is Paths of Glory. Did you have that one on your list?
Nope.
Okay. So Paths of Glory. This was a hard pick for me because it is a challenging game. It's it asks a lot of you because like a lot of war games, it takes a long time. I don't see that as a downside. I like really long games anyway. Good things about this game: it's incredibly tense. It's very realistic. However, it's not slavishly devoted to exactly reenacting World War One. So some people, it gets a little flack for that, but I think it's actually a good thing. Like you can experiment with what would happen if Russia didn't leave the war, and they had a huger impact, or if Austria-Hungary actually did anything important. So yeah, I think it's really good. The card use, remember this is 1999. The multiple uses for cards wasn't as common as it is today. And that was really kind of revolutionary, I think. And I still think that Paths of Glory does it better. I think that the tense decisions that it requires you to make, because you draw a card and you have to decide, do I want to use this for its points, and move my guys around, or I want to say resurrect, but like bring back dead troops, like that. You can use the points for that, or
zombies.
Zombies, or use it for its event. And if you, but I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think if I pull out a card that is good for you, let's say we were playing together. And I use it for its operation points, I think you can activate the event.
That's true of a lot of these games.
It is.
But it's been so long since I've played Paths of Glory with you.
I'd have to review it again. It's been a long time, but it's a wonderful game. It's a 9 for me.
Okay, that's a game that I would like to play more. I think I only played that half a game with you that took us like 8 hours.
Yeah, it's a long game.
So, it's a long game. But I really liked what I saw, but I haven't played enough to rank it.
Yeah, and you're not a war game aficionado.
No.
But,
and I think you also like World War One a lot.
I was going to say that's World War One is kind of intense. It's not
we'll come back to that later. But
you better. My list is wrong.
Yeah, Paths of Glory.
Okay.
Great. Number 10.
Yes, my number 10 Actually, it's funny because when we reviewed this game, I think I gave it an 8, which is good. Which is actually really good for me. 8's pretty good, but the more I thought about it, the more I'm like, I find that I'm always thinking about this game, even though I haven't played it, even when I don't play it in a while. And it's a game unlike anything I've ever played.
Captain Sonar.
No, that's probably on your list. I bet. I don't know. But
It's a good game.
it's actually High Frontier.
Okay.
High Frontier. It's. I just, it does something no other game does, and I don't play it for the game, but I play it for the experience.
Yeah.
And I have to give it props for that. And it's a game I'm still thinking about. I'm like, oh, I want to go play that game again. Yeah. I want to play the game. I want to add some more of
You
these.
give it an 8?
I think I gave it an 8 in review, but
Okay.
it's gone up
We'll
since.
look it up
Just
and
I think
correct
so.
you if you're wrong.
Yeah, and I will point out that I don't think the rate, because a lot of these we've reviewed on. Mm-hmm. I don't think the rankings I gave necessarily line up with this list.
Okay.
Because those are just so subjective, anyways. I'm not giving my rankings on these.
So you're saying no one should pay
ratings
attention
on
to your
these.
ratings on BG?
No, but it's just what I say, good and bad. Just listen to that. The number doesn't mean much. But yeah, High Frontier, I think, is definitely like.
Well, what did you like about it?
What I liked about it is just so. I learned so much about space travel, and there's that experience of feeling like, oh, I was able to break out of Earth orbit and get through this radiation belt, and now I'm trying to get to this distant planet. It evokes that feeling so well, and I think that's probably why I gave it an 8. Because normally I play games just for the puzzle of it. I want the competitive nature, but this game I play for a completely different reason, and that is the learning experience and just the feeling that I get from playing that scenario of going out into space. And I love that subject anyways. And so it doesn't line up with anything else on this list, actually. This is probably the most random game on here. But yeah, I think it belongs on it. So number 10.
Yeah, but by far the most popular video that we've looked at.
That's the other thing too I mentioned. That's like...
People are, a piece of the action fans love them some High Frontier.
Yeah.
Yes, it's like 3 times more views than any other video we have.
Yeah.
It's over 1,000 views now, which is a lot on YouTube. 1,000 views. Whoa. And our second most watched video is like Food Chain, which is like 350 or something like that. Yeah. So yeah, it did get us to our 100 subscribers.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah. So very nice. Okay. So we're anything to say on High Frontier, and otherwise, I believe we're number 9, right?
Number 9.
This is going to be a problem for me keeping track of the numbers. So.
Okay.
Number 9.
I don't want to say anything about in rebuttal because my number 9 is High Frontier for All.
Yeah, that was on my list.
Yeah. So High Frontier for All, my number 9. It's a beautiful game. It is. I like to pull it out and just show the board to people.
Yeah, that board is amazing.
Like, what is that? And then when you describe, when you explain that each intersection is a space, like that just blows people's minds. What do I have here? It's beautiful. It's detailed. High accuracy. And the thing that I mentioned in the review that I liked so much about it was it is very unique in the way it plays, like in what it asks of you, because it is very challenging. But I found that I like to pull it out and just decide I'm going to try to get to that planet, before I totally implode. So like that's not part of there are scenarios that you can play in the game, but you can just make up your own. It is very much like a solar system simulator, and you can just do whatever you want. Yeah. It's amazing. Yeah,
that is the good thing about it. But it's even talking about like war games, about how you like Paths of Glory so much because it's World War One, and we talked about this in our review,
right? But
it's not a war game though. How many games try to emulate
to that
detail of planetary mechanics? It's like there is. I love that board. The way they baked in the orbital mechanics into the board itself and made it simple to understand, I still think is a work of genius. Yeah. So yeah, it's a great game. Nice. Okay, a lot of bang for your buck. Okay, let's go back to Greg. Then we are on number 9 for Greg. Yep, number 9. I used to be a number 1 on BGG. That's one of the reasons I picked it up, and I played over and over again with the same person, and we learned the game together, and that is Twilight Struggle. Oh, okay. One of the things I really like in my games is tension. That's a big deal in games for me. Like if the game just feels super tight. I'm worried about losing at any moment. That's why I like a very volatile games, because that can happen. I think out of any game on my list, this is probably the tensest game I know of for me. And the beauty of this game too is I can think of other tense games. Like, I think Antiquity can be tense,
Right.
because you're fighting the game so hard.
Right.
But I feel that goes away the more you play, the more you get more confident in yourself. Twilight Struggle, I feel like as you learn the game, the tension just ratchets up. Because in the first time you play, you're just kind of like looking at the cards and like, oh, this card does this, that's cool, this card does this. But as you learn that deck and you realize what your opponent could have in their hand, that just increases the tension ever more. And when you get to the late war, that War Games card, if you don't know where that is, if at any point you're behind by, I think it's like 7, 8 points, they can just play that in the game and win. And so if you don't know where that card is and it's just there, that tension is there. That
The only way to combat that card is to have it play tic-tac-toe.
Yes.
So, 80s movie reference. Sorry.
Yeah. But, yeah, I mean, I love that game for that reason. It's just super tense.
Yeah.
And there's phases to it where I do like the Cold War as a subject, and that was fun to learn. But that I loved how they were able to not just the reason it's tense is because the Cold War was a tense time to live in. Mm-hmm. So it's also very thematic that the feeling of the game would be that tense. Mm-hmm. Like you're always on the brink of nuclear war. Mm-hmm. It just feels that way. And yeah, I mean, I just love that game.
I need to play that again. I don't have a lot of interest in the time period or so I picked up Imperial Struggle.
Yes, which we have to play.
Yes, and I have played it, and it's very good, but it's very similar to that, and it kind of throws back to Paths of Glory in the card use because it's the same kind of thing.
Yeah, it's a similar system.
Yeah, when did that come out actually?
90s, well, maybe not that far ago.
Because Paths of Glory was 99.
Early 2000s. It'd been like, I don't know the exact
okay, I think it was
year,
early 2000s.
Yeah, it was early 2000s probably. But yeah, a lot of games do that where it's like if I play. That's one of the great things, like the mitigation, this risk mitigation in the game, or the disaster mitigation, I would say. You get a hand of cards and they're all your opponent. And then when you first start playing, you're like, oh, my card is all my opponent's cards. But after a while, you actually want your opponent's cards because what happens is if you play it for the ops points, the event happens anyway and they can choose to do it. However, if it's in your hand, you can decide when it comes down. So it's like you're trying to like figure out, okay, this is going to really mess me up when this gets played. What is the thing I can do to help mitigate this the best possible? Because now I can control it when it comes down. That whole disaster mitigation feels there too. It's just such a tight game. The feelings it evokes is amazing. I love that game.
Cool. So it sounds like kind of like tight, but accomplishes a lot with little.
Yeah, the way it evokes the theme on top of it, like every card is an event that happened during the Cold War. Right. You move through early war, mid war, late war. The way it starts out really concentrated in certain parts of the globe, but then eventually starts spilling out all these to everywhere in the globe. But yet you're never fighting directly between the USSR and the USA.
I feel like it's similar to one of the things I said about Paths of Glory in that it has all in the deck of cards represents things that happened in the time period, but it's not slavishly linked to you have to play things like the Cold War events. Yeah. Things can change.
Absolutely. You can do what if scenarios. There's a whole space race going on too at the same time. Yeah, for sure. You can do, or some events just never happen because you find a way to get around them. But yeah, it's a great game. Love it.
Nice. Okay, number 8, Eric.
Number 8 for me came out in 2011. It is a 4X game, and it is called Eclipse.
Not on my list.
Yeah, Eclipse. Eclipse gets a lot of play on my table. I've played it many, many times. I'm kind of embarrassed to have it on the list.
Why?
I don't know. Why?
I don't know
why I'm embarrassed.
Own your choices, man.
I know.
Too basic?
I don't know. I think I'm embarrassed a little. No, I'm not embarrassed, but the game gets a lot of hate because of its comparison to Twilight Imperium.
Yeah.
And a lot of it had to do with Sam on.
Of course. Yeah.
But
well, how do you respond to that criticism?
Well, they're just two different games. I mean,
they are.
The thing with,
for what it's worth, I prefer Eclipse.
Me too. I think Eclipse is the better game. I think it is definitely a 4X game. Definitely.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's also a Euro game in that it has this elegant mechanic on your board that allows you to at a glance, understand how much money you have, how much technology you have, how many materials you have. Those are your resources, and you have. As you try to do more things, you can do as many things as you want, but it becomes more and more expensive, like prohibitively expensive. As you expand out, again, it becomes more expensive because those same tokens that you're using to take actions, you use to claim systems.
Right.
So your overhead becomes higher as you go, as you play the game. Really elegant.
Yeah.
Plays quicker than Twilight Imperium, and there's a new remake which looks better and fixes a lot of the component problems, because one of the problems with that game is that you bump things and you're done. Because you get your little.
And it was a little plain looking, wasn't it? The original, if I remember.
Yeah, they tried to fix that with ship packs that came out. Yeah. And like you could buy these ship packs that would turn the generic ship types into like specific for the race. So those come in the new remake of the game, but with a bunch of other. The game is exactly the same. They didn't change any rules. It's just the components.
Yeah, I agree. There's there's kind of a very simple economic system behind it that makes it enjoyable. But actually, my favorite part of that game, despite being a person that would probably be drawn to that more, my favorite part of that game was going to that board with the technologies.
Oh, really?
And deciding what you're going to buy, because there's so many different technology you buy to upgrade your ships and like different things you can do, and eventually you just go over there and you can just spend your points. It just felt like being in a candy shop.
Yeah, that's true.
You know what I mean? It's like there's this whole display of cool technologies. Which one do I want? I love that part of it. I don't know why, but yeah, it's a good game. Yeah, it's a good game.
Okay, cool. So I feel like I had a question about it. Yeah, we have played Eclipse together a couple of times, I think. I was going to say, remind everybody what a 4X game is.
Oh, a 4X game is, of course I'm going to screw this up. Hold on. Exploration, expansion, not in this order. Exploration, expansion, exploitation, and extermination. Did I get that right?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Very nice.
So it's,
Which people misuse it all the time, by the way.
Why? How?
Well, they apply it to games that don't have all 4 X's. Or one of the X's is so minor.
Sure.
That, anyways.
This definitely is like.
But yeah, I think this one definitely hits all the 4 of the X's.
Cool. All right, Greg, number 8.
Number 8 is probably my most personal pick, in that this was kind of the game that really got me the deepest into playing board games at the level that I'm playing now. Even though I played before. Yeah, Agricola. So this was kind of the very first strategy game that I picked up. Even though I had played games before, even like Twilight Imperium I played before picking up Agricola. But this was the first time I picked up a game that was just a heavy Euro that just kind of opened my mind to the possibilities of what board games could do beyond what I always thought they were doing. I always thought things like Risk and just kind of Ameritrash games, which are fun. Yeah. But when I opened up Agricola for the first time, and I played that, I was like, wow, this is very different. This is like hitting a different part of my brain completely.
Still a great game.
And yeah, so I love this game, but I do admit there's probably a little bit of nostalgia.
Yeah.
And I played this game a ton. Like, I play this game all the time. Even today, I play this game a lot. So I played this 2 weeks ago maybe. Played the family version without playing with any of the cards.
Oh, yeah.
Still an amazing game. Even without the cards, even though I prefer the cards, it still like worked so well. But yeah, it's just it does have some tension in it. I do love the cards about how it changes your strategy every single time, because you got to look at your cards and figure out what's the best way to combo these. It just always feels like, how am I going to feed my people? I love that constant tension. This is one of the few games where I like that mechanic, because it doesn't feel just tacked on. It feels like a core part of the game. Yeah. I have the expansion, Farmers of the Moor. I just feel like changing it up some. There's so many ways to customize it too. So yeah, Agricola.
Good game.
Solid game. I still love it, but there's some nostalgia here.
Yeah, definitely some nostalgia. But it is a very good game. I did consider it. Like, really? I really like that game.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. I really like Agricola, and just not quite high enough. But I think that's one of I think it's the best game. Probably one of the best games Uwe Boll. Uwe Rosenberg is already not really.
He might make a movie out of it.
Things exploding.
You pick up the wheat. It explodes.
Uwe Rosenberg. I think that was like you really hit that up.
Yeah. I mean, I think. Yeah.
Do you think it's his best game?
Well, I mean, it's the only game on the list from him,
Sure.
so I have to say yes. Yeah, I think so. I mean, I've played some of his other stuff. I feel like later games have lost a lot of that tension.
Yeah,
They've become
exactly.
so open that I feel like I played Feast for Odin not too long ago.
Right.
It's fun, great game, a lot to think about, but it just felt so much more solo than like I'm playing by myself. Then
Right.
Agricola still has some of that, but it's so tight that you really care where people go because there's not as many spaces. Although I will give props to Bonanza.
I need to play that.
I think Bonanza's a great game. Not on the list at all.
Yeah, but I know you're fond of Bonanza.
It works so well in so many settings, but yeah.
Okay, cool. All right, number 7, Eric.
7. Number 7 is a game. It's a 2-player game from 2016.
Go ahead.
Do you have any guesses?
I was going to say Sekigahara.
No.
No? Oh, that's from 2017.
No.
2017?
2006. No, I said 2016. I think.
2016. 2-player. Oh, no. 2016?
Yeah.
Star Wars Rebellion.
Yeah. Star Wars Rebellion.
Yeah, I got that on my list.
So Star Wars Rebellion. It's a 9 for me. Really thematic. Lots has been said about this game. We need to review this.
We do. I want to play this again, actually.
Yeah,
I love this game.
It's beautiful. It's super fun. Very, very tense. It is when
I want you to describe this game without saying Star Wars in a box.
I know I really don't want to say that. I really don't want to say that. What I was going to say was when I read about the win condition for the Empire, I was like, I don't know, that sounds too simplistic because I'd heard people say that this was Star Wars in a box. I had heard people say it. I'm quoting. I'd heard people say it.
You're not saying it.
I'm not saying it. Other people have said it. And then when I read the win condition for it, it's like, oh, you just take a planet, and you like the rebels take a planet, they hide it. You know, and then through process of elimination, through probe cards and stuff like that, the Empire's trying to find that planet, and then get there and blow it up, basically. And I was like, that doesn't seem like it could do all the things, but it really does. Like that is the engine, that's the motor that runs everything else in the game. But you can have such cool stories come out of that.
Yeah.
It's a really fun game to talk
is.
about afterwards.
I had a Space Leia story last time I played.
Yeah?
For Space, where she
Oh, that's right.
she jumped off a planet and floated through space.
Yeah, it never happened.
speed.
It never happened.
We I did I play that with you? I played that game.
I don't remember playing it with you.
Sure, it wasn't some other Star Wars game, or
It's 2-player. It has a ton of miniatures. Tons of
you
miniatures.
sure you're not thinking about Monopoly or something?
Maybe I'm thinking about the fact that I saw a Star Wars movie.
Churchill?
No,
Are you thinking about Churchill?
could be.
One with Batman in it. Remember?
That-
Right. Batman, Cthulhu, and Churchill. No, it's got all the planets. Yeah, and you're trying to find one of the planets.
Yep. Maybe we can play it. Yeah, I love it. It's very asymmetrical.
It is.
Like when the rebel player, when you tell them what they have as far as ships and is concerned, and then I like to let the rebel player set up his stuff 1st, and then have the Empire start just they have everything at a Death Star. You know,
It's crazy.
It's so intimidating. The only thing that they have on their side is nobody knows where they are. You know?
Yeah, but this is another game. Like I thought, with tension. When you're a rebel player, the rebellion,
Right.
is so tense because if they find your base, you're done. I mean, you can't fight the Empire directly.
Right.
Sure.
But I love that the Empire's just fighting so directly with just tons of power,
Yeah.
and the rebellion's trying to get around.
Win hearts and like do missions on
Yeah,
planets and
like
stuff
like
that. Yeah.
sneakily, and it just feels so like each of the
Sort of a quintessential asymmetrical setup.
and which fits with Star Wars theme perfectly. Yeah, it's a great game.
Great. Greg, number 7.
My number 7 is Sekigahara.
Okay.
I was hoping we're gonna have it's on the same number. So Sekigahara is one of my favorite 2-player games. Period. I just find talking about like story creation. I just find with such simple rules, because I mean, Star Wars Rebellion gets there, but there's a lot of rules in that game. There's a lot of cards with text on it.
That's true.
I find Sekigahara gets there with very little. The rules are pretty simple. There's no text in the cards, and somehow I still come away from these games with just very vivid stories. Like I can tell you stories about the time when I was like chasing down a daimyo in the back countryside of Japan, or the time that there was this massive battle for the whole a war on the field of Sekigahara. Like I remember these events, and every time I play, it's just exciting. It plays out differently. I love the combat mechanism in this game. I've said before, this is my favorite combat mechanism in games. The way that
tokens and cards. Oh, you have to activate the
You have to activate the blocks with your cards. And my favorite part of that is you have perfect information about what you can generate.
Yeah.
You just don't know what your opponent can, but you can kind of guess maybe what they can. And I love that one-sided information. It's like one side. Like I know what I can do, and I can kind of see the way you're moving around what you can do. And so I'm playing the player, not dice. There's something about that that really appeals to me.
It's a very difficult game.
It is a very difficult game. Yeah, it always you always feel like you got such leaky borders. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like your battle lines, you're trying to like shore up everything, and you're like, oh man, if he attacks me here, I do not have the cards to play these people. He's just gonna run me over, and I'm gonna lose this game. He doesn't know that. Like he doesn't know that you can't play those people. So those plans.
It's very pokery in that way.
It is.
You know, I was thinking about
you
that.
Can bluff. You can bluff in this game very much.
But like poker, you don't typically want to.
No, because they call your bluff.
Yeah, you're done.
Done.
And I did that last game we played, where I was like, I'm just going to put a ton of dudes here. I can't activate any of them, but I'm going to like try it because I had nothing.
Yeah. And as you get more desperate, you start calling some of those bluffs. Like
you have to. Yeah.
I mean, we'll see if he actually has the cards to play this.
Right.
Yeah.
Great
no,
game.
I love that game. It's just so chaotic, but it doesn't feel arbitrary. If that makes sense. It's just.
It's interesting because that and the Star Wars Rebellion, you mentioned kind of the stories that come out of it, which is not something that you typically cite as like a key component that you're looking for.
No, I do like when stories come out of games. What I don't as care about, maybe where I get the bad rep, is I don't need the story pasted on top.
Sure.
If that makes sense. But I do like getting even other games that are just completely dry with no real theme. I can get stories out of it.
If they lend themselves to having a story easily mapped on top of them. Then.
Yeah, it's not necessarily like, oh, I remember one general such and such. What but I can tell about the time that this big battle happened here. Remember that time when I thought you were going to have that card, you didn't, but that kind of story is good.
I think stories do come out of it, similar to Star Wars Rebellion, but I think Sekigahara gets there cleaner.
It does get there cleaner.
Sounds like.
Yeah. But with Star Wars Rebellion, you got faces to put the things. Like, I can remember
and there's massive
Darth Vader
nostalgia.
did this, and so.
Well, and something I wonder too is like since both of them involve sort of this maybe not exactly cat and mouse, but sort of like a hidden and bluffing, and like it seems like that would be a good thing to facilitate. Just because you have that aspect where. You're sitting there and they're, you see them contemplating where you might be, and and you're kind of internally freaking out, that could lend itself to
true.
a pretty memorable experience.
I never would have compared these two games, but now that they're both on number 7, I'm like, actually, there's
it does actually,
kind of some
because one of the
similarities
win
here.
conditions with Sekigahara is just kill the other guy's daimyo.
Yeah.
Right, which is the same as find their planet.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's true, actually.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right, up to number 6, Eric.
6 is a game that is one of the biggest regrets of my life.
Hold on. Let me spit on my
Because
list.
I saw this game.
Ooh, I know what it is.
I saw this game at
I know what it is.
I think my wife and I were on anniversary somewhere, and we happened to see a board game, a tiny local board game shop, and we went in there and they had this game, and I almost bought it.
Okay.
And then didn't, because they didn't know anything about it, but it looked cool. And then come to find out after we played it several times, that it's one of my favorite games of all time, and you can't find it anymore, and that is
A Few Acres of Snow. Yeah. Yeah, this is a good game.
Fantastic.
I want you to put a bad game in your list so I can mock you. They're all pretty good games. So.
This is a 9. It's a war game, but it's also a deck builder. It's fast. It's exciting. The mechanic is clever, because I've said it before in the review. No, we didn't review this, but I said this before about it. I think is that like you think you're playing a war game, and then like halfway through you realize you're also playing a deck builder, which is awesome and does it way better than Dune Imperium. And
most deck building games, I would say.
Yeah, and it's just great. You have to get the card into your deck. You have to go and capture the place, and it's based on the French Indian War. That's the War of 1812, right? Same one.
No, that's the before it was in the 1700s. So this is
no.
Oh no!
I think it's the War of 1812.
You need to stick to World War One.
I do.
No, you're right. You're right. I'm sorry. Yes, you're right.
Yeah.
This is the American-Canadian front of the War of 1812. Yeah, you're right.
But it wasn't the Americans didn't, because they didn't have much to do with it. It was mostly the British and the.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm wrong. I don't remember. But yeah, it's very, very thematic. It's not, compared to the other things that I've mentioned, it's not nearly as pretty looking. But it is so fun to play. It's just a blast to play.
And I mean, I think it does have a particular aesthetic quality. It's not the most flashiest, but it's not.
Yeah, I mean, you're just putting down little discs to represent your and you can't talk about this game without talking about the.
That's right.
Were you right?
7 Years War.
7 Years War.
Yeah, so 7 Years War was like, they almost call this like World War Zero. This is like the war. That was actually like a big world war, and this was the fight. This is where George Washington first fought when he was new.
Okay.
And
this was in the 17th?
He kind of caused this war to a certain extent.
This is in the 17th.
Yeah, this is 1754 to 1773.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
So this, I should know this. I've just been studying this era. Yeah. 7 Years War.
Yeah, I need to learn more about the war. It's very interesting. You can't talk about the game without talking about how it's broken. That is true, but just don't look up the Halifax Hammer and you're safe. Like it is a broken game. That is why Hands in the Sea came out, because it was meant to. First off, A Few Acres of Snow wasn't in print anymore, and they wanted to remake something that was basically exactly like it, but without
being broken.
Being broken.
Yeah, and I just think that the deck building in this game, I've said it all the time, I just think it's one of the most thematic deck builders. Where the deck building is not there just as a mechanism, but it makes sense to the theme. Because there's this whole delay about, like, because this is overseas war, so it's like they have to, like, hey, we need more troops. It takes a while to get that across the ocean, so it's like the deck building is like this delayed action. You don't get the thing right away that you buy. And then as you capture these little insignificant towns, those cards go into your deck, and it makes your deck more inefficient, which kind of feels like your military is getting inefficient because you're expanding too much.
Exactly.
The way that's all incorporated in so simply and yet so thematically, it's pretty great.
Okay, and Hands in the Sea. It's supposed to be the next game that you have to
We've played a few times.
We've got it.
I need to play it. I need to play it.
He wants to play some more.
Yeah.
And we may do a couple others in the interim also. But that brings us to Greg's number 6.
Number 6 is another one that's gone up since I reviewed it, and honestly, it's gone up from the first time I played it. When I first played this game, I would have reviewed it as a 6.
Wow.
When I reviewed it online, I rated it an 8. Every time I play this, I'm like, wow, this is much better than I thought it was. It's Power Grid.
Oh, okay. Wow. I like it that much.
I like this game. It's just, every time I play it, I'm like, this is so simple and elegant, but it creates such a deep game and experience. It's just I don't know. Maybe it'll go down for me eventually, but every time I play it, I'm reminded.
I have to admit that did happen to me, because I gave it to you because I was like, I don't like this game, and then I gave it to you, and when I played it recently, semi-recently, I was like, this is good for the review. When we reviewed it, I was like, this is actually much higher than I expected.
It's a game I always want to play. You notice whenever I bring games over, I always bring Power Grid because I'm like, oh, I want to play this game.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of games that get a lot of bang for the buck.
Right.
And the rules of this game are really simple, and there's very little randomness in it, but what you get out of it is so much deep maneuvering. The auction is super tight. I love games that have really intense auctions, where it's like...
It's not overly complex either.
No, it's not at all. I mean, there's math in it. Everyone talk about the math, but if you can do addition, you're fine.
Yeah.
I always thought I must have... I got the impression that that was higher up on your list, but I guess not.
No, I mean, I was pretty high in our review, but it just keeps going up. Every time I play it, it jumps like a whole grade almost. So, I think it's because it's that kind of a game where it's deep enough that I keep finding new layers. I'm like, oh, there's more to this game than I originally thought. And I keep playing again, and there's another layer, and and there's different maps, and the maps do change things up a bit. But yeah, it's a great game. In some ways, I consider it an introduction to the kind of games I like to play because it's so easy to teach, and it plays up to 6 people.
I was going to ask. Yeah. Okay.
It's like
That's really
it's
good.
2 to 6 in the box, but I don't recommend 2. 3 to 6, it's a great player count. So good games.
Awesome. All right. Well, before we get to our top 5 for Greg and Eric, just want to say thanks again to everybody that's watched us and supported us over the last couple of years. And if you're watching and you have not subscribed, help us get to 200, I guess, and maybe we'll get together in person again. So, yeah, subscribe if you haven't. Let's go to now our top 5, starting with Eric's game number 5, please.
Number 5. So those were all 9s. Everything I'd said before. This is to me a 9.5, and this is a crossover with Greg, and it is Sekigahara.
Yeah, I knew that was in there.
Unification of Japan. Wonderful game. Everything we talked about it already, but I love how it looks.
Yeah,
you know,
it does
that's
look
not the
good.
reason to buy it, but it does look really good.
It does.
I like block war games. I'm a fan of those. Strangely, none of them really made the list, but
Oh, really?
I have a lot of them. I really do like block war games, and this is by far my favorite.
Well, there goes one off my list too.
Well, that's 2 overlaps. So,
Yeah.
all right, Greg. Anything else? No, you already said everything you're going to say about Sekigahara. So let's go to you, number 5.
My number 5, which I think we should review this pretty soon, honestly, is Through the Ages.
Yeah.
Through the Ages.
Great game.
So
We didn't review that. We haven't reviewed that, but
No,
we've
we have
talked
not.
about it a lot, right?
But, and I think we could
It's a
review
classic.
It's.
I need to play it some more.
Yeah. Okay.
It's really dense.
It is a dense game. That's what I like about it.
Yeah.
But I tell you, after I just came off saying I like games a lot of bang for the buck.
Yeah.
This game is actually pretty. It's not that
One-dimensional?
bad. Actually. It's not that bad, but there's a lot going on here. It's pretty fiddly actually, but I don't mind it all. I tell you why. So I like on PC. One of my favorite genres is Sid Meier's Civilization games. Now, I know Francis Tresham did Civilization before all that, but Sid Meier's Civilization, I've bought like so many of those, and I have like, probably 100 hours in each of them, and I buy all the expansions, and I don't know why. Because the same thing happens.
Like you gotta collect it.
No, but I put a lot of time into playing these games, and I don't know why. Because I play them, and I love the concept of a Civilization game. And then I always get to like the later eras, and what I don't like in games is when things get overly micromanaging. And when it gets later into the game, I get down to the point where I'm like, I don't really care if the citizen's on this tile or this tile. I don't want to think about all this. There's too much going on, and I just kind of let the computer make some of the decisions, and I start to lose interest. But then I come back again and start playing another game. I just because I love it that much. Through the Ages, I like because it takes that whole idea and it board gamesify it. And when it's in the board game form, I can keep track of everything because I'm moving all the bits. There's no secret math or algorithms going on behind the scenes. I know what's happening. And so I get my Civilization kick, but in a board game form. It works for me better. And I just love the concept of taking a little tiny civilization and working your way up into modern times. I don't know what is it about that concept. I love it, and that's why I always buy Civilization games.
Yeah, I shied away from this one at first because I love maps. So when I saw that it was just a series of like character cards, I was like, oh, that doesn't seem as thematic as I
understand
wanted
that.
it to be.
It bothered me in the beginning too.
And then what happened was it got so much buzz that I loved Eclipse, but I went ahead and got Nations. Nations was made. It was almost a kind of a dupe of Through the Ages, but it was done by the same guys as Eclipse.
Okay.
And didn't like it.
Yeah,
I didn't like it. But
yeah.
then I finally sucked it up and got Through the Ages. Fantastic game, but man, it's a brain burner.
It's a brain burner, but that's what I like about it. It's just so much to think about managing your civilization.
Yeah.
And I love, so it's funny because again, I'm usually want a really interactive game, and the interactions game is not super direct, but it's more like this military battle. It's arms race.
Yeah.
Because if you ever get behind, basically if you're with players who are all kind of the same level, you're all kind of with each other in the military. And like, that's the interaction. Like, oh, they boost up their military. I got to boost up mine, because if you ever get behind in that, you're done. because they think that, okay, now I can attack you safely.
Yeah, they'll just keep doing it every turn.
Then you get hit, your military dies, and the next person goes, oh, he's even weaker than before. I'll attack him again. So I mean, but I love that tension where you got to make sure you keep your military
What's the player
in line.
count?
It's 2 to 4, but 4 is a little much.
Yeah, I would imagine.
I think 2 or 3 is good for this. Yeah. But yeah, I just love how it gives you that civilization feel of building up your civilization, and the way they abstract this all out, I think it's pretty genius. There's no map, but the way the cards play, it does feel like you're exploring new areas and you're taking over places, and it's got all that going for it. But yeah, it really is just a card game at the end of the day, but it plays like a really heavy game, so it's good.
Yeah, I feel like we're going to come away from this with a revised list of stuff that needs to go like directly.
Yeah, we need to do
Yeah,
the ages.
that would be good.
Because if this stuff is on you guys' top 10, I mean, there'll be less suspense as to what you rate it, but that's okay. Okay, on to number 4, Eric.
Number 4. Now we're into all my top 4 are all 10s for me. But this one's going to get some hate. This is an old game.
Diplomacy?
Yeah, diplomacy.
Yeah.
I love diplomacy.
I don't hate that. I don't hate a 10 on it.
I love it.
It totally deserves a 10.
It is a
To some people, not to me, but I understand why
It's
people
from
rate it a 10.
1959. It is the most tense game, other than a game of Tournament Go, that I played at the Go Center. That is the most tense I have ever felt in playing a board game. It is, again, it's that same era that I love, that kind of turn of the century era. It's right before World War One. It's kind of like, it is basically kind of World War One. It is very, very simple in concept. Like, the rules are exceptionally simple, but the fun of it comes from the fact that you've got to, because they're so simple, you have to get your friends to help you. You have to convince your friends to help you get into Austria or whatever. And it has, what does it go up to, 7 players?
I think it's basically 7-player only.
No, I mean,
I have 6 or 7.
You can forget about Italy. You can get rid of Italy. But it does play best with 7, and I love big player count long games.
Yeah.
At Dragonflight, they would have a game of diplomacy going, and it would just last all 3 days.
Yeah.
Fantastic game.
Diplomacy is funny. We need to review this because I have been preparing my review for diplomacy since we started this channel.
Really?
Because while I totally respect someone giving it a 10, I understand why it's nowhere near that to me.
Interesting.
And I've been trying to justify that to myself for 2 years.
You've played it, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And so I've been trying to figure out why that is. So one day we got to review it because I've been thinking about my reasons for it. But I totally respect the game.
I don't think you like that kind of... See, I love when the player feels the anxiety of,
I know, but you
world.
also like seeing people fight.
You like it. You like causing people in real life to actually cause have anxiety.
My favorite story is David. I told you this, right?
Yes, you told me this story.
Where he came out we were talking privately. I've seen this before. We were talking privately, and he had his little map, and he was like, "Okay, if you do this," and he's pointing to his map, and his hand is literally shaking as he's describing this move that he wants me to help him with. I was like, "This is the best game in the world."
No, I get that, and the reason why I don't rank him so high is not because of that player anxiety so much, but there's other reasons that I've had.
Talk about immersion.
No, I agree 100%. It's an amazing game. I respect it 100%.
Yeah, I think both of you are equally capable of putting your friends under undue duress without being bothered.
The other thing, I've got nothing but good to say about this game, except that I would say that it's almost too tense. It's almost too stressful. I mean, and also, because of that, it's got a bad reputation, and nobody will ever play it with
you got to play with the right group, but I mean, it's a game. Just
deal with it.
deal with it.
Yeah, I'm surprised I've never played this.
Most people don't like it because of that, but that's not why it bothers
I think you'd actually like it, actually.
Maybe
You'd
so.
get a kick out of it.
Yeah, I too enjoy causing people stress and anxiety. Okay, number 4 for Greg.
4, okay. So it's...
These are all 10s for you? I'm curious how many...
I only have 2 10s.
You only have 2?
This is 9.5. I think I ranked this. Well, I have to say, it's the Great Zimbabwe.
Okay. Oh.
I think everyone knows I love splatter games, and I think this is probably what I think of among their main 5, this is like the Splotter gateway game. I just played this weekend, actually. It reminded me why I love the game so much. But it's
really high for you.
Yeah, it's amazing.
We've never played this.
No, we need to play this. It's got all the trademarks I like from Splotter in that I love how you don't own anything you put on the board. Like it's basically you're trying to build these monuments up, but you need to collect these resources. But to get the resources, people need to start building craftsmen to dig up the resources and make them into usable products. That's really all there's to it. It's pretty simple. But when you put down a craftsman, anyone can use it. You can charge money for it, but anyone can use it anytime. You can't deny a sale. And once they use that resource on the board, it gets X'd out, and no one else in that turn can use that resource. And that right there, that tension of you have to figure out, thinking about, like, if I put this down, this is good for me, but does it help others more? And I love that tension. And every single turn, the whole board will change because people can just put a monument at any point. They can put one of their monuments anywhere in the board as their turn. So you think you put this thing way up here, or no one's going to get to it, and they go, I'll just put a monument right there next to it. So there's just so much of this you have to think about, that everything is so intertwined, which is what I like about Splotter games. Is everything is so intertwined that any sudden movement on the game just changes all the math.
Okay.
And you're always really big on, games with high levels of interaction.
Yeah, where everything matters to everybody else.
Right.
I love that, where everything someone does on the board matters to you. Mm-hmm. It's like, okay, well, that just changes everything I'm going to do. Another thing I like about this game, and this came down to this last game we played, the fight for turn order is so interesting in this game, the way they do it. I would explain it, but unless you see it in action, it's kind of difficult to understand. It's one of those kind of things that's difficult to explain, but when you see it happen the first time, it makes perfect sense. But basically when you're bidding for turn order, but you place your bids, your cows, or your money, basically, on these plaques that belong to different players. Here, I'm explaining it anyways. And at the end, so if I bid 4, I put 1 cow on each plaque, and at the end of the bidding phase, when everyone's done bidding, you get all the cows that are on your plaque. So it's kind of like you're kind of like redistributing the wealth in some ways. But
that's turn order.
That's how you bid for turn order. But the way that always comes down, turn order is such a big deal in this game, especially when resources are tight. That part gets really crazy. Okay. And then like, okay, if I can bid 3 cows, one of these cows is going to my plaque. I'm getting that back anyways. There's all these kind of things. This last game we played, someone bid 25 cows, which is their entire supply, to get first turn order because it becomes that critical. So that part's really neat. But yeah, it's really just a logistics game. Where everything just kind of like hinges off everything else. So I don't know. I love Great Zimbabwe. If you haven't played any of these big Splotters, I usually recommend this as the first one to try because it's easy to understand, but it's still got like a bunch of depth. So
you know what I like about what I like about our channel.
What's that?
I think it's
me.
Yeah, it's you. No, I think it's interesting that like you are into dense euros. Well, not euro as like
well, yeah,
dense
economic games in some
games,
ways.
right?
Yeah, some euros.
And I'm into dense Ameritrash games.
War games and stuff.
But like not into like the lighter stuff necessarily, but like you can go dense on both sides of that axis.
Right. Yeah. You guys have good point counterpoint.
That's right. Tell your friends about us.
Yeah. Speaking of that, before we get into our top 3. I want to remind everyone that if you have heard a game that they've talked about that we haven't reviewed yet, that you really would like to be a review we do soon, or if there's something that we haven't mentioned at all and don't mention but you'd love for us to review, please leave us a comment in the videos or go to the link that we're going to put in the description for BGG. Let us know what you want us to review, and there's a very good chance, this is an advantage of supporting a channel that's fairly small. You communicate with us, we probably are going to communicate with you, and if you request a game, we'll probably do it. So for sure, go and check us out and let us know what you want to see because, it's all just more content for us, which we need. So that having been said, Eric, game number 3.
Game number 3 is also an old game, but it's been reprinted recently. It is.
I didn't put this on the list.
You did or didn't?
I did not, but I know what it is. Not you saying that.
We're at 2 overlaps, right? So you need one more.
No, I'm trying to figure out his. I have his top 10 list. I'm trying to figure.
Yeah.
but also I said there's be 3 overlaps, which is going to happen. No, it's not.
Well, yeah.
But I did not put this on the top 10 for you.
Interesting.
But now you're saying it.
Yeah. So it goes way back. It has a history that comes from Cosmic Encounter, which is itself an old game, and then that turned into Dune. And Dune was reprinted by Gale Force 9 recently. They did a fantastic job. It looks great. It plays just like the old game, but in some ways better because they've fixed some of the balance issues.
Yeah.
There's some fiddliness with it, but that's just because it's old. But this game is Dune in a box.
You're going to say that.
It is. It's just like player interaction. That game is the ultimate, and no, not the ultimate, but it's really, really good when it comes to player interaction. You really feel like you are the Fremen or the Bene Gesserit, you know.
How much of this for you is nostalgia as well? Because you've always been a big
I love
Dune
Dune.
fan.
Not much, actually. This is a fairly recent discovery of mine that it was this important.
And standing on its own as a game, not because you're bringing a lot of your own emotional
history
to it.
No, in fact, I think I had played this online, but I had never played the actual board game until the reprint.
Okay.
So, the reprint was 2019, actually. So, very recent. Amazing game.
Yeah, I have things about this game actually because I have actually not played Dune, but we played Rex, which was like the one Fantasy Flight.
Yeah.
Rethemed it for a while.
You dug it. You really liked it.
I loved it.
Yeah.
I loved it. In fact,
the way the money changes hands in this game is so cool. Everybody, when you tell them their secret power, it's like, wow, how can I not win? You know, and then unless you're the Fremen.
I loved it so much that I actually thought about should I put this on this list? But I was like, I can't do it on one play.
Yeah.
But this is a game, honestly, and it's just, again, this doesn't seem like in my wheelhouse. And that's one of the reasons why I didn't play it. Like, it just looks like a big random event. But it's not at all. It's just there's some, but
there's cards.
There's cards and stuff, but everything is known by a player. And it's up for sale.
Yeah.
So the cards are random, but someone knows what the cards are. You can pay them for it.
If you really want, you can pay them.
How far is the sandstorm move? It seems random, but somebody knows. So it's like it's a super random game, but each piece of that randomness is divvied out to a player,
right?
To make it not random at all.
Which then gives you incentives to pay them for that information. Information is the name of the game.
So I really want to play Dune because even when we were playing Rex, which was the retheme,
we just started calling it.
Even having not played the regular Dune, I knew exactly what each race was. I'm like, this is the Bene Gesserit. It's obvious, So that's how thematic it is. I think they can't even get rid of the Dune theme.
Yeah, I'd be interested to play that with you guys then because it sounds like an interesting. What do you call it? Allotment or distribution.
Yeah, it doesn't. It's not. It doesn't try to copy the book. It just puts all of the players from the book into the scenario, and then let's chaos happen.
Yes, and this is the kind of stories I like. It's not like here's text you read from this chapter of Dune.
Right.
It's like each of these
comes out of the
each of these factions kind of has that what they felt like in the book, and just through gameplay. Okay, you're going to feel like the military power. You're going to feel like the conniving people. It's like it just feels that way when you play them. Yeah, naturally.
Nice. Okay, Greg, number 3.
Number 3, I will pick one game here, but this I kind of just put down here as a catch-all for this genre.
Escape the room.
Yes. Monopoly Star Wars.
Yeah, Monopoly Star
Trek. No, I'm putting down 1889.
Okay. Yeah.
This is fairly similar to 1830, but I have not played both of those games enough to justify splitting them out. And I have also played 1846, which I considered putting down lower, but honestly, I do not have the group to play these 18xx games as much as I want, so I have not played to the extent where I feel comfortable splitting them out as one thing. So I put 1889 because I think that is, to me, again, it's kind of the gateway to 18xx to me. In fact, I have the Kickstarter should be coming in, but I have a big plan about introducing my Splotter group to it, and then moving over to 1830, and hopefully getting more of these 18xx played. But anyways, all that being said,
You let the cat out of the bag now.
Yeah, well, 18xx, all that being said, is just the ultimate economic game. It's just, there's so much depth here. Every time I play it, I feel like I'm still scratching the surface. I still feel like there's so much going on beneath here that I have yet to discover.
I think I will actually like these when I play them because
Maybe.
I really, really liked.
You've never played an 18?
No, I never have, but I played City with the Big Shoulders.
Yeah.
And I loved that. I liked it better
Sure,
than you.
you liked it better than me.
Because I think he was thinking of it as this is a watered down 18xx, whereas I was like, this is really fresh and new. So I might actually. I'm not a huge economic game guy, but I might like that one.
Well, when I get the 1889 in, which I got the Kickstarter for that, we'll try it out. Because that one you can play. It's like 3 or 4 players. You can play maybe a new group would be 4 or 5 hours, but once you get good at it, you can get down to 3 or 4 probably.
You could probably be too compressed for me. Like the reason I liked City of the Big Shoulders is because it had other elements to it.
Oh, but I felt like City of the Big Shoulders, not to get into review that again.
Sure.
I upset a couple people with my review in that, I think. But
I really liked it.
I felt like it ripped out what was a simpler system, but that gave you more bang for your buck with the map. And put on all this kind of complicated Eurogame stuff that I didn't feel was giving back as much.
Yeah, and I loved it.
So I don't know, we'll see, we'll play it. But yeah, it's super cutthroat too. These games are just, I mean, you can just really dump companies on people they don't want, and like they have to try to run it and they go bankrupt or whatever. It's just everything that I like about an economic game is here. It's, you can get out. It totally rewards skill. There's no luck in this game whatsoever. And every one of them plays completely differently. There's whole versions of them, so once you learn one system, you just kind of got to learn the differences in the other, and you get a whole different game. But yeah, I love this game. It's one all of these, I want to play them much, much more. But 1889 is what I'm going with here because I think that's the better, for me anyways. It's a good introduction, but I think it also works for when you get really experienced. It's not like just you play at the beginning and you go and move on to something else. I think even if you're an expert at 18xx, 1889 still works for you.
That is the simplest though, right?
No, it's not the simplest.
It's a good representative of the class.
What's that?
It's a good representative of the class.
Yeah, I think if I had to own only one 18xx, it'd be this. Just because my groups are smaller in general too, I don't always have a long night to play, so it works well for that. And it just kind of takes 1830 and just shrinks it down a little bit.
Okay.
But there's simpler 18xx. I mean, some people don't think of it that way, but I think like 18th Lilliput is supposed to be that, or 18 Chesapeake.
Oh, 18
Maybe. I don't know.
Those are like smaller versions.
I think 18 Lilliput was supposed to be, but some people will say that's not even 18xx,
Okay.
which it might not be. But I don't think you want to go too simple with them, to be honest with you. I think you want to go into the deep end to see what it has to offer.
That's the reason you play them, right?
Yes, I think so. I think you have to go in that mindset that I'm just going to be lost my first few games and not know what I'm doing. And this crowd takes a certain type of player because you have to be willing to deal with the bumps that you're going to get when you first learn them. Okay. So,
all right,
Yeah.
we're getting down to it.
All right,
Eric, game
is
number
this
2.
number your 2? Really? I think I know what it is.
Yeah. Don't say.
It can't be. This is your number 2?
Yeah, I love this game.
Really?
I love this game.
I know what this is.
So I have you to thank for this. Because,
that's right.
Because
Yeah.
you mentioned it to me. I was looking for a game that fit certain parameters, and he was like, "Well, check this out." He hadn't played it.
Yeah, I hadn't.
Because I was looking for something that played World War One relatively quickly,
Right.
but still was immersive. And Quartermaster General 1914.
Okay.
That is such a good game, and it's very good. It has the same kind of card mechanics as you use a card for multiple different things, but every player has their own deck. The deck size is different. It's very asymmetrical. The reason I love it is because it's team versus team, and that's so rare. When you win, you can share that victory with someone else. It's not like when you win, not everybody hates you. You've got a buddy who wins with you, right?
Yeah.
Whereas and the same thing on the other side. Whereas like that, and the information sharing between the allies and the central powers, but you don't have to do what they say. That's fun, and the deck size represents the economy of each nation. So Russia starts off with this little tiny deck, and you know that they're going to run out of cards soon. And it's just like, what can you do before you're done? Before all you can do is move pieces around on the board. It's very simple. It's really easy to get into, easy to teach. You get more out of it if you know stuff about World War One, but you don't have to. It's just, it is. I want to play this game all the time. It's great.
It's the way the decks are for each country too are very elegant. The way that they make you feel like the country they are, but it's just through the way the cards are stacked.
Yeah.
I do like that part of it. And the team on team feels legit. It's not like Star Wars Rebellion team on team.
Right. Yeah.
Where it just feels like a 2-player game they split up.
Yeah. So Star Wars Rebellion has a 4-player version where you can play 2, but it's so tacked on.
Yeah.
It's like,
this game, each country
legitimately
it feels like it was meant to be that way.
And it's very rare to find a team versus team game. I mean, Captain Sonar, which is your favorite.
I was going to say.
Yeah. Well, I haven't got the one yet. No spoilers here.
Right.
But I have to say, out of all the games in your list so far, this is the one I don't.
This is the weakest.
I just don't get it. Diplomacy is not my favorite, but I understand why it would be someone's favorite game.
Yeah.
This game, I just don't. I don't get it.
I know. I knew you would say that. This game, I will admit, a lot of it is because I love the era.
Okay.
I like.
This one you are bringing some of your own
I'm
personal.
bringing some of my own stuff to it, but I also think that it is, of all the World War One games I've played, it's definitely not the most accurate, but it is the most fun. It is just fun to play.
So then I assume your number one is Star Trek Chrononauts.
I do own that game.
Actually. I know. I played it. It was just because it's the theme you enjoy, you know.
We went back to that store to find you the Star Trek trivia with the VHS tape. I think it was gone already. But, yeah. Otherwise, I'm sure that would be on your list.
Awesome.
Okay, Greg, number 2.
I know.
There's no more surprises left on my list. Number 2 is Food Chain Magnate.
Yep.
So yeah, I love splatter games. This is my favorite splatter. This does everything I like in a board game. I've used the words in the review. Go watch it. But it's volatile. It's cutthroat. I forgot the words I use now. But it's just
You had a whole list already.
There's a whole list. Go watch it. I can explain it there. But it's just very few games can I think of where everything is so tightly entwined with each other. Where it's so. You're not fighting each other directly, and yet everything anyone does just changes the whole board. And I care 100% about what you're putting into your organization each time, because it's totally going to affect what I'm doing. And I got to think about what you're going to be thinking about 4 turns later, right? Because it's 100% strategy in some ways. There's very little tactics. You've got to be constantly thinking the long game. And I love that about this game. I love how I can switch in a dime if someone just makes a clever play. It's like, oh, okay, he's been building up to that. Okay, I didn't see that coming. I didn't think about that. But everything's open. Like, everything, there's nothing hidden.
You say you can switch on a dime?
The game can change on a dime.
Oh, the game can.
Yeah. Not the player.
You can't change it. Like, I've always referred to this game as a big tanker in the ocean.
Right.
You can turn your strategy around, but it takes a while to crank it.
By the time you turn around, the game's done.
Yeah, so that's what I mean. But I like that because you've got to be constantly thinking way out.
Sure.
You know, I love that feeling in games. I much prefer that to tactical games.
Yeah, and that's my
I was going to ask Eric, any new love for FCM?
It's on our list. It's on our shelf. It's on our 10 shelf.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
Because I respect what this game is doing, and I know it's a good game. I respect it because of its purity. It is just purely strategy.
Yeah.
There's zero tactics to this game, but in thinking about this and talking about it with Greg and reviewing it, that's my biggest problem with it. It doesn't have any tactics to it. Yeah. And so therefore, I like a game that has some think on your feet moments. And this game, when you sit down to a game that is purely strategy, it feels like you better have studied it, or you better be prepared to lose.
Right.
And that is the case with Food Chain.
Well,
I don't hate games that are like that. It's just that I'm not interested enough in the game to invest time into it to learn it. And you are, and that's great.
I don't study this game. I don't study games at all, actually. But I do learn something every time I play.
Sure.
And I love
thinking about.
Played it enough. I played it enough. I love thinking about. Okay, where did I go wrong?
Yeah.
And it could be anywhere in the game.
Sure.
It could be my first move. Like, okay, where did I go wrong in this game? Oh, I should not have put my restaurant here. Before I even start playing the game, that was a dumb choice. That cost me the game.
I'm sure that if I got better at this game, it would go up in my
I think so. It is the kind of game you got to play a few times. because I didn't love it the first time I played it. When I played it the first time, I remember thinking, "There's something here," but I'm not sure if I like it or not yet. And by the time I got to like my second, third play, I'm like, "Oh, I love this game." But yeah, I just love that long. This is one of those games where it just 100% feels like it's me and the other players, and we're all trying to outthink each other. Like it's not just, oh, this is a cool mechanism that felt good to do. Oh, I got a dopamine hit because I finished off this combo. It's 100% brains against brains.
Sure.
And I love that about the game.
Yeah.
And it's pure, unfiltered. It's not going to hold your hand. You will lose.
Unfiltered agony.
You make a bad decision, you're going to, people can take that bad decision, pick it up, and bang you over the head with it. It's like I love that about it.
It is a
great game.
Good game. It is a very good game.
Yeah, I remember
type of game.
the couple of times that I played it with you. The impression I came away with was that it's like this seems interesting, but I'd have to play this all the time. Like this is something that to get it to like have the experience that I think I would feel is the intended experience. It would have to be something that that I'm playing a lot.
Yeah.
All the time.
You wouldn't like 18xx.
Yeah.
I think 18xx is actually
more
than this. There's more of a.
And I always.
Beginning.
I feel like a specialty I have is always going into games feeling like I'm prepared to lose. So
Yeah. It's a superpower.
It's actually funny because I talk about 18xx, but the reason why I put Food Chain above it is because I do feel it's a little more accessible. Like I feel like you can go into your first game and at least be trying to do something, whereas you can start.
I think it looks better too. I think it looks better.
I don't know. The Kickstarter for 18, I think you might like. It looks pretty good. But I don't know. I feel like you have things you can hang on to. You're not as lost. I feel like one thing about Splotters, they make these super deep games, but I do think they're accessible.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
okay, this is it. Moment of truth, Eric.
Well, I think we can do our number one together, right?
I think you guys have the same
Yeah,
one.
the
I
same
suspect.
one.
We do. Yeah, it is Go.
Yes, Go.
Yes, I don't know if it's in the shot, but there's a Go
No,
board
it's not. There's
right
no
on the
right
shot.
there.
But just so happens to have a Go board here. Micah's.
This game, good board by the way, bamboo board, very good, relatively cheap. Pick one up.
Yeah, Seattle Go Center.
Seattle Go Center. So speaking of games that you need to study,
After all that, I don't like to go into games I gotta study.
no. Like this is the one I've chosen to do that with, but there is
that.
tactics and strategy. There's both.
Yeah, sure.
This is more than a game for me. This is like one of my main hobbies, my main pastimes. I'm actually playing somebody right now. Shout out to somebody who saw us on the.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
On the show?
we're playing a game of Go.
Oh, do they contact you directly?
Yeah. Well, I gave my information out. I said,
Oh, that's right.
contact
You
me,
did that.
Asymmetrical. This is the most elegant game. It is the hardest game in the world. It is the oldest game that is still played in its current form, in the same form. 4,000 years old. I mean, can't be wrong, right? It's I mean, you can watch I think that's our longest video, right? Let's go.
Yeah.
It felt pretty long, but I think we all had a lot to say on that game. This game runs deep for all of us.
Yeah, watch the video if you want to see me pontificate on how awesome it is. It's the best game in the world.
Yeah, and I agree. It's always rough talking about Go and not sound like I'm just setting it up so high. I almost don't even want to put this on this list because I feel like it's not a game to me. It's like something else. It's
Well, didn't you say that, or was it you?
I might have said that before.
One of us said that when we were considering Go and should it go on the list. And somebody was like, I don't think it should go on the list.
I don't know. I think it's
I remember we had a discussion about it because it almost seems to be something.
It's not even a game.
to me, it's a different hobby. Like I played Go before I ever picked up Agricola. So to me, it's and I approach it differently. I don't know, but yeah, I mean, you can go watch that review. I've talked endlessly about it, but I agree. It's just
I can't think of anything that could ever replace this.
No, it's just we got too many years into it now.
Granted, I've invested too much time into it, but
I mean,
it has no theme, but at the same time, like to me, it has a personal theme because my whole parts of my life are built around
Sure.
this. I go down and I actually play competitively, this. And I thought that's a weird hobby to have. It's like there's so much time. I have good memories. I have highs and lows. Getting beat by 12-year-old Asian children. And having them mock me. It really will. It will humble you. But then having huge highs of being able to pull it out of the fire at the end.
Shin Ichiro, I remember you.
Yeah, he's scarred for life.
I am. He was longer than 12. He was 7 years old, that boy. Woke me up.
I had a kid playing on one of the tournaments in Portland, and he started singing, "I killed you, I killed." No, it was the other way around. Little songs.
Well, when I played, it was at a Japanese Ghost Center. They're a little more polite there.
Yeah.
But he was getting bored playing me, I could tell.
Okay.
He was putting a stone down there.
Looking away, yeah.
He was just I don't know why I'm playing this guy.
Yeah. Are they doing tournaments again?
They just started. Yeah.
You gonna go? I assume.
I am. Yeah. I was gonna go last 2 times, and something else came up. But Go is an amazing experience. If you have the time and energy to invest in learning a game, really learning a game, the Go is going to give you the most for your.
It's definitely one of the games you can spend a lifetime on and not get bored with.
Right.
I'll put it that way. Yeah, I think there are other games that I could have possibly gone down.
All of these other games I play because they're fun.
Yeah.
In various types, they're fun. I enjoy hanging out with friends. Go, I play because I want to get better at it.
Well, I always say that Go is the only one I'm confident in 40 years.
Yeah.
I will still be playing.
Right.
But these other ones, who knows? But it's. We talk about how there's games with different learning curves. Mm-hmm. I feel like Go, every layer,
right?
It's oh, there's more here. Oh, there's more here. It's a constant new layer. And so when you've invested, I don't know, I've been playing close to 20 years now, probably.
Yeah.
When you invested 20 years into it, it's I don't have another 20 years to spend in another game, and I'm at the point now where this game is super interesting.
Yeah.
So. I don't know. Yeah.
After 20 years, you're getting to the good stuff.
Yeah, I'm oh, finally, this is starting to make sense.
Yeah.
So, but it's just the way that it.
Yeah. Not to make it sound too intimidating, but it's.
No, that's a good thing.
But it doesn't have diminishing returns the way probably other games.
It doesn't. I feel like any of these games I just talked about on this list, at some point, if I put too much effort into them, I'm going to burn out on them eventually.
Right.
Go does not have that problem.
Yeah.
And it's also by far the easiest game to teach in this list.
Right.
You get so much out of it. The tactics he talks about is you got these little localized battles, but how they influence the greater board. I love that aspect of it. So you're constantly thinking about the war and the battle. I love that dynamic in Go, where you're constantly have to shift your focus. And that's one thing about Go is I always try to any move I make, I kind of just pretend I'm approaching the board for the first time.
Sure.
Because you get so enwrapped in one battle in a corner that you're missing maybe a bigger move elsewhere. Anyways, we could go on forever on this if we keep talking, but go watch the review. It's the best game in existence, I think. So.
All right. Well, no big surprise with number 1. I knew what it was for sure ahead of time, and I think you hit it, Greg. Didn't you? 3 overlaps.
3 overlaps, but let me go through the ones that I thought were going to be in your list and they weren't. I did think Scythe.
It's everybody thinks that, but it's just not. I think it's a very pretty game. That's why I bought all the bling for it. But and I do think it's a very good game.
Okay.
But it's just not. It doesn't compare to these.
I said Julius Caesar.
Haven't played it enough.
Okay. And Lords of Hellas.
I considered it. It is high on my list.
Okay.
I don't think it's nearly as elegant as any of these other games.
Lords of Hellas is the opposite of elegant.
Yeah. It's it feels it is Lords of Hellas is fun, but it's very club you over the head with its fun.
Okay.
All
right. So I got 7 of your 10.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Cool. I didn't consider what was going to be on your list. Sorry.
That's fine.
Well, guys, thank you for doing our special in-person episode. It's nice to be able to get together in person a little more often.
We haven't done reviews in a while. We'll get back to
just because of COVID stopped, and so other things had to start picking up. But we're optimistic. But we're not dead.
It does open up other possibilities like this.
Yeah. And so What are you guys going to review next time? Is it still Hands in the
Yes,
Sea, or are we going to do something
Oh,
else?
Hands in the Sea,
I've
but-
got a little short coming up.
Yep.
That you're prepping. I think that I did just a little 30 like 1 minute mini review of Fields of Arle.
Oh, okay.
And I might do some more of those. I don't know.
Right.
But yeah, probably Hands in the Sea. What else did you want to?
We could do Hands in the Sea, or we could do.
You know what I'm surprised wasn't on your list?
What?
Tiger Sing Euphrates.
That was really cool. It's probably my 11 actually right now.
Okay.
Well, actually, it's up there. I need to play a little bit more. Tigers and Euphrates is pretty good though.
Because we could review that.
We can review Tigers and Euphrates through the ages.
Through the ages.
I feel like if I just get one in-person game,
Let's do those. Let's do those. The thing is like you've got to help us out because nobody's going to watch those. They're old games. So.
What? It's blasphemy. Those are where the good games are.
Yeah. Okay, cool. All right. Well, guys, thank you for 2 years of getting together with me and doing this. It's been fun, and we'll keep doing it. And you guys watching, thank you for watching. Support us in any way that you can. Like, comment, subscribe, all the usual stuff. And until then, this has been a piece of the action.